anti-aging and age reversal, and how you can apply this information today to have a better quality of life, maybe a longer lifespan, maybe reduce risk of developing different types of diseases. We're not making any product claims to that effect. These are just things that you would do for changes in your lifestyle to reduce your risk of disease. We don't make any product
can everybody
claims.
hear? Dr. Angela, can you hear? No. So some can hear, some
I'll speak up.
Sorry, thank you, David.
No problem. Okay.
Next time we'll bring you an auditorium, a mic, and
We're
a
all
parking person.
Okay, the parking person would definitely be a help. Okay, so let's start at the beginning with this and maybe take a look at how this approach is going to be different than maybe some other things that you've heard of or are familiar with. So the first thing is, what we would all like to have are cells in the body that are young and healthy and stay that way forever. Okay? And here is the good news, is that there are already forms of life, species on this planet that are young and healthy and stay that way their entire lives. And so it is the job of a biologist, stem cell researcher, to try to figure out how do these life forms already do it. That is incredibly exciting, because if it didn't exist in nature, we would be stuck with the proposition of how do we create something that has never existed before? But we actually don't have to do that. What we have to do is much easier, is figure out, number one, how do these mechanisms work in these life forms that heal very rapidly, that can regenerate lost limbs, that don't age, and there's even some species that get stronger with aging. How can we take that, learn what's going on, and then apply that to human beings? Now, speaking of things which never existed before, I brought something with me that we created in our labs that never existed before, to show you that that indeed is possible. Right? And this is actually happening all the time now in the world around us. Scientific discoveries are accelerating at an incredibly rapid pace. And this is something that we created in our labs during the process of doing stem cell research. And this was developed using a new technique which I invented and patented, of using energy to manipulate the way two materials bond together. And in the process, we ended up creating something completely new. And one of the things that's really cool about it is that it looks just like gold. So we had for those of you that are new, we ran a promotion back almost a year ago. Would provide enough oxygen for one person for about 4 hours. So I soon got invited to be part of a design team for the Navy's next generation mini sub. And in the Navy, a mini sub is about 60 feet long. Okay? And it attaches to a larger submarine. And the crew of the submarine were Navy SEALs. And so the head of this project said to me, see what you can come up with. Take a look. This is what we're doing. What do you think you might want to contribute to this? And I've always been interested in health and fitness, and I was really opposed to the idea that these guys were going on missions that were 30 hours, 60 hours long, and they were going to have to take caffeine, amphetamines to stay awake. And I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to try to develop something to keep them awake, give them energy for long periods of time without having to use drugs. How are we going to do that? So that's where this all started. So the basic idea is that the properties of the cells are controlled by energy. And this idea, this concept has been around for an extremely long period of time, and many scientists, spiritualists have put it in different terms. One doctor would be Robert Becker, who wrote a book called The Body Electric. And you can summarize that book by simply saying the electrical properties of the body control the chemistry. Now let's think about this for a moment, that one simple statement. The electrical properties of the body control the chemistry. How powerful that statement is. We are taught from a very early age, we're indoctrinated, we're brainwashed, we're programmed, okay, to believe that it's really the chemical system of who we are, what we're about, that does everything. And this is because the pharmaceutical companies make huge amounts of money selling us this idea. Now, I am not knocking the pharmaceutical company, because drugs have saved people's lives, but they're also poisons. And while it's great to have a pharmaceutical when we need it, we don't really want to have a lifestyle where we have to live off of these drugs, because we know that they have detrimental effects. We can sing and dance to these commercials and listen to the side effects, right? Okay? I don't want to do anything where I'm dancing with someone and the side effect is death. I don't want to do that. So let's look at what else can we do. How can we work in harmony with the body and understand how the human body is working in the first place to have optimum health. So, of course, no matter what we do, we need to have a foundation of proper nutrition. We need to have a healthy diet. We need to exercise regularly. We need to get enough sleep. We need to have proper amounts of water. We have to stay away from the things that we know are toxic, okay? This is all a given, and we're not going to spend any time talking about that, okay? So if you're smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, then you should probably leave, okay? Because this is not going to help you. All right. So you've got your foundation in place. You're doing all these things that are all proper and healthy. And what else can we do? Because we know we can eat healthy. Let's say you use Jack LaLanne as an example, right? So Jack LaLanne used to say that he never had a slice of birthday cake in his life.
Wow.
And, absolutely. He also ate a lot of liver.
Jack LaLanne fan, I'm worried about.
So we can have this perfect diet, exercise, take supplements, and we're still going to age, okay? And is there anything that we can do beyond the basics to significantly change our health? And we're going to look at the electrical properties of the body, because if the electrical properties control the chemistry, then it should be possible to change the chemistry with some form of energy. Now, there are a lot of good examples of, over the years, how inventors have attempted to do this, and to different degrees of success. So, for example, there's therapy with magnets, permanent magnets, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. There's therapy with very high frequency magnetism or light. There's different types of electrical therapy, right? So we can use Dr. Norm Shealy, for example, has developed different types of electrical stimulation devices for pain control. So historically, we have a huge number of different energy-based products. They're all working within the realm of changing the chemistry of the body with energy. Now, what type of effect are we trying to get that will enhance our quality of life and preferably extend our lifespan and more preferably reverse the age of the cell? is there a code that we can discover, unravel, that will give us this answer? How does the human body work in the first place? So let's take a look for a moment at the work of Dr. Fritz Pop in Germany. And this is very interesting work because what he did over a span of about 40 years is that he had a suspicion of how light would control the chemistry of the body. And by the way, we're going to do question and answers later. So if you just let me stay on a roll and keep a train of thought, you can ask me anything you want later. So this work was incredibly interesting because what he would do is he would take different types of cells, plant cells, animal cells, and of course human cells, and he would put them into a chamber where there was no light. And then he would use a device called a photomultiplier tube, and the purpose of this device was to detect very low levels of light. And what he found was extremely interesting, is that all living cells emit light. Not only that, is that the light coming off of the cells is highly coherent. Coherence means that the light is like a laser. Now, let's just talk about the power of coherence just for a moment. Let's see, we have a light. Well, we have lights all in the ceilings. And let's see, you young lady, you're sitting underneath this light over here. And maybe that's 100 watts. I don't know, pick a number, right? 200. Okay, perfect. Even better. We're going to get to where we want to go even faster. All right, we've got 200 watts of energy. Now, that is coming from a light bulb. And if we could see the photons of light, they would be scattered and random. The light coming off of a light bulb is incoherent. And this is very important for us to understand, because if we want to control and enhance the function of the cell, we have to understand the difference between this point. This light is incoherent, and that's all fine, all right, because it serves a purpose. Now, let's say that we change this from coherent light, from incoherent light to coherent light, right? And now coherent light would be a laser. So this means that all of the photons move in the same direction. Now, what would happen if we had a 200-watt laser? It would melt steel.
Yeah, cut a hole in it.
The same amount of energy, right? 200 watts is 200 watts. The difference, though, is incoherent light bulb, coherent laser. So, incredibly, the light inside of your cells is coherent, just like a laser. Any of you ever hear the name Nassim Haramein? Some of you. Nassim Haramein is a physicist, and he has calculated the amount of energy in the cell and the density of that energy in the cell. And he equates it to the same density of energy as a black hole. There is a scientist here in Florida, Abe Leboff, and he discovered a phenomena called ion cyclotron resonance. And what his discovery is that the mitochondria, when we're taking food and we are taking the proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and we're stripping off the electrons and we're making ATP and some other energy carrying molecules, the mitochondria inside your cell replicates the activity of a cyclotron. That's a particle accelerator. We have a miniature particle accelerator inside of our cells. There's something called the electron transport chain. I'm going to shorten the name of it. But basically, it's the process by which electrons move through the cell. There is a small molecular wheel that spins at about 9,000 RPM. Our bodies are energy bodies. We are a lot more than just chemicals. So we should not accept programming and brainwashing and indoctrination of people that want to tell us we're simply chemicals. We are a lot more than that. And in fact, through the thousands of years of spiritual teachers, they've been trying to communicate this to us, that we have a light body. And I think maybe sometimes people did not interpret that literally, that it was simply something more spiritual. But we are closer to our spirituality than maybe we know. In other words, we are maybe more light beings than we are physical beings. And so, what does this all mean? Well, let's think about different ways that we can heal. Let's take an extreme example. Let's say that someone has cancer and they want to survive. They want to be healed of that cancer. What do? We typically start with physical treatments. Okay, if they go the way of allopathic medicine, they'll be advised to go through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, and we know the side effects and the potential outcomes of those things. Sometimes the outcomes are good. Many times they aren't, and very often people are left with toxic effects that they have to recover from. On the other hand, there are techniques to heal people emotionally. There was this idea that illness and different types of disorders are closely associated with emotion. In Eastern medicine, this has been something that's been known for thousands of years. And even that there are specific emotions that are associated with different illnesses. Now, this might seem crazy at first, but then when you think about where do emotions really come from, how do emotions connect with hormones, and where do the nerve endings of different parts of the brain connect to different organs, we can start to see that there is in fact a basis for therapies to clear negative emotions from the body to create healing into the spiritual realm. And then what do we find? We find people, they lay their hands on others or they pray for others, and the healing is like instantaneous. What's that all about? Right? So I don't know about you, but I want the instantaneous healing. Right? And what works instantaneously? Light. And also a special form of energy called a scalar wave. Sometimes mislabeled a little bit, and we won't necessarily have a conversation about that tonight. But energy moves very, very rapidly. Actually, Yusuf, hey, we have a demonstration? Sure. Okay, if you promise not to hurt me. Okay, thank you. Your name?
Ron.
Ron. Yes. Okay, Ron, I'm David. All right, let's go back over here. Okay. You look like Mr. T. But we have Are you a bodyguard? No? Okay.
Much more handsome.
All right, so maybe normally we would do this like with a piece of rope. Let's just shake hands and we can do this. So now, let's say what Ron and I are going to do is create this like undulating wave, okay, of energy. And let's say this is a traditional electromagnetic wave, and it takes a little bit of time from the energy from my body to transfer over to Ron's. Now, let's say that we straighten out like this, and I pull. The transfer of energy is immediate. There's no delay. That, by the way, is a good way to envision the difference between an electromagnetic wave and a scalar wave. Transfer of energy occurs instantaneously in a scalar wave. Anyway, so Ron, thank you very much. Easy, exactly. Okay, so let's go back and talk about this a little bit. But this is all to say, why do we want to understand this? Because these waves exist in our body. Let me explain. So you have an idea for what's going on inside the cells. And remember, the place where we're going to get to is how to get younger, healthier, right? Maybe even age reversal. But we want to understand this basis. So we know that the cells in the body, they have an electrical charge. They're emitting light. It's highly coherent. The way we generate energy is like a cyclotron. Let's move beyond that for a minute. We'll start with the brain. And we have to have, would we all agree we have to have electrical signals leave our brain, go through the nervous system and out to different parts of the body?
Yeah.
We can agree to that, right? All right. So what happens, we have nerves all over the body. What happens if we have nerves and an electrical signal running down our arm? Is there another type of energy field that exists around that electrical signal in the nervous system?
Yeah.
Some of you took physics in high school. Okay, a magnetic field, that's right. There's a magnetic field, it's called the right-hand rule. Magnetic fields exist at right angles, and there have been pieces of equipment called a magnetometer, or a more sophisticated one called a squid magnetometer. But basically it means we have something which can measure the magnetic field around the body. Okay, so we can measure the electrical field around the body. We can measure the magnetic field around the body. Now here's what's really cool, is there is a meridian system in the body, as it's called, and this is something that's studied in acupuncture. And people get hung up on the meridian system, but really what's known about it today is that these are very fine threads of collagen, which is the most abundant protein in the body. And what adheres to these collagen threads are electrolytes like calcium, potassium, magnesium, and this gives the collagen fibers the ability to conduct energy at the speed of light. They're transparent to infrared energy, and this has all been measured.
Can you repeat that?
Which part?
Just that last section.
Oh, okay.
The
So
thread.
acupuncture meridians.
Yeah.
One of the things that's known about acupuncture meridians is that they are basically threads of collagen protein, and attached to the collagen protein threads are electrolytes. So they're going to, this is why when we stimulate them with a needle, they're going to conduct electrical energy and they're going to conduct light. So actually the speed at which signals travel through the acupuncture system, they travel at the speed of light. This was measured by Dr. Joey Jones at the University of California. But here's what's so interesting about this, is that it would be a meridian. Let's say this is the lung meridian. And the lung meridian is going to run, there's something called the lung 1 acupuncture point, which starts up over here. It goes all the way down the arm on the inside, and then it ends up at this lung 9 point down over by the thumb. And then there's another meridian which will pick up on the back side and then travel this way. Well, funny enough, in physics, if we want to generate one of these scalar waves, right, we'll have the electrical signal going through the meridian is like an electromagnetic wave. It's that wavy thing, right? But what happens is that when we get the energy traveling back this way, the two fields cancel one another, and now we end up with a scalar wave. It is wow, because what it means is you have electrical waves traveling through your body, magnetic fields, scalar fields, sound waves, compression waves. All of these fields travel through your body, and let's not forget light. All of these fields are traveling through your body in this complex orchestra. It's not random. It's all there for a reason. And it's there to control the chemistry. There is even a theory in biophysics which is really fascinating. And it has to do with how cells divide, how our bodies are capable of procreating. The idea is that when we start with a cell, how does that cell divide, split, and create new cells? In biophysics, there's one theory where a hologram of the cell forms, an energetic scaffolding forms first, and the chemistry attaches to it. We're energetic beings. We're beings of light, and we're beings of energy. And we can use this information to improve our health in some very dramatic ways. Let's use something very simple. Let's say that we wanted a non-drug approach to managing pain. And this has been around now since the 1960s. And these devices are called TENS devices. And there's these low frequency TENS and high frequency voltage across the body to electrically depolarize the nerve so people can experience less pain and not have to use drugs. The system isn't perfect, but it does work and it helps many, many people. But this is a great example of how we can use energy medicine as an alternative to drugs and even to some case nutritional supplements to improve our quality of life. But let's go beyond this a little bit and let's look at what can we do that would be a little bit more sophisticated to reach our end goal. And the end goal is we know that we're born, we age, and we die. And it's always been believed that in biology, aging was a one-way street. We can age, but we can't ever go back the other way. Now, in the 1960s, when this idea of aging, that there's aging as a one-way street, still very much existed, a scientist by the name of Dr. Lauren Picard challenged this notion because he did an experiment that was incredibly compelling. And what he did was he took the liver cells from people that were 80 years old. And he incubated those cells in the blood of people that were 20 years old. And these old 80-year-old cells started to behave like younger, healthier cells. Over a period of about 5 years, he wanted to know what is in the blood that is causing these cells to act like young, healthy cells. And he discovered it was a compound called copper peptide. And copper peptide is a very simple peptide. Peptides are compounds that are made up of amino acids. And this is a very simple peptide. It's composed of 3 amino acids, glycine, histidine, and lysine. But it just so happens that this peptide, one of the special attributes about it, is that it has an extremely high affinity for binding with copper. And that's where the magic happens. Now, peptides are signaling molecules. They're part of the body's communication system. And you have a few opportunities with peptides or with biochemicals in the body that communicate. They can communicate in a way that is really good for us, or they can communicate in a way that's not so good for us. So one example would be in arthritis, where people have chronic levels of inflammation, and the body keeps saying, make more inflammation, make more inflammation, make more inflammation, right? We can't get out of that routine, right? So the signaling, the communication system in our bodies breaks down. But what if there was a way? Let's think about this for a moment. What if there was a way to change our chemistry and activate a peptide using energy, right? Not using chemistry to change chemistry, using energy to change chemistry, where we could get the cells in our body to function like younger, healthier cells. So we started this research 10 years ago. We've invested over $4 million, $4.3 million into this project. And we've worked with a number of scientists around the world to independently verify our results. And one place that we were working was the National University of Ireland in Galway. And we were funded by the Irish government to be there and do this research, because we had found that using a very special type of electromagnetic field, we could alter the way stem cells worked in the body. What does this mean? Well, let's say that we have an injury, okay? And let's say this is some type of injury. Somebody bangs their knee, okay? Now you've got all this inflammation around the injury, and what's going to happen is stem cells are attracted to inflammation. And this is in itself is an energetic phenomenon, meaning the inflammation is sending out an electronic signature, an electrical signal, and the stem cell hones in on it just like a radio station. It's a process that occurs energetically and chemically. Once the stem cell gets to the injury, it's going to release different types of growth factors to repair the injury. Unfortunately, the inflammation will also kill the stem cells. And so you can inject a few million stem cells, and maybe an hour later you have 200,000 stem cells. In any case, what's important here about this is that the stem cells in our body, their ability to heal, is going to drastically change with aging. Meaning that we'll have a pool of stem cells at different parts in the body. They're going to exist in body fat, they exist in the meridian system, they exist within the bone marrow. And the stem cells are there as a reservoir. They go to the injury. And when we're young and healthy, this all works great. But as we age, the stem cells don't move as quickly. It takes more time for them to get to the injury. There's less stem cells. When they get there, they don't release as much growth factors. The quality of the stem cells change over time. The stem cells age with the rest of us. And so can we do anything to change this circumstance? So we found out the answer to that is yes. And this is what we did. We took a technology that we developed in our laboratory in San Diego, and we said, let's see if we can use electromagnetic energy to enhance the function of the stem cell. And we want to start out, we want to do something really simple. We want to see if we can transfer energy from outside of the body to the stem cells, enhance their energy production, and get them to move more quickly to the injury site and heal the injury more quickly. We did this in a number of different animal models, and we demonstrated, very importantly, that this technique could heal an injury at exactly the same rate as if stem cells were injected into the injury site. You don't have to inject stem cells. You can take the stem cells that are already in your body and dramatically enhance their properties. Now, we got so good at this technique that we ran into a problem. I was having dinner in Ireland with Dr. Tim O'Brien, who runs the Regenerative Medicine Institute at the National University of Ireland, and he said, well, we have a little problem here. the technique that you're using is actually exceeding the biological limit for protein synthesis. What that meant was that we were healing injuries so quickly that it couldn't be explained biologically because cells don't normally produce protein that quickly. And we wanted to find out, well, how is this actually possible? So we started I got this idea because I used to develop different types of metal alloys. And I got this idea, well, what if we see if we could take something that's not alive, like a crystal, and metals form crystal structures. What if we were able to change the rate at which a crystal could grow, or the orientation of the crystal using this field? We could get an idea for what was really going on. And so we got some low melting point materials like bismuth and tin, and what we decided to do was do something very simple that's very well known. Just form an alloy that is or compound that's composed of a metal and oxygen, because everything about different types of metallic oxides are all known. And so we used this technique. We added this special type of electromagnetism to the metal and the oxygen. We formed this gold-like material. We got really excited about it. Believe me, when you're in a lab and you see you're making gold, that is pretty darn exciting. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be rich. Right? I can retire and I can make all the gold I want. Right? That's pretty cool. All right? It turns out patches are way better, by the way. So this wasn't alchemy. We took this and we sent it out to a laboratory, a place called Evans Analytical, and we used a technique called X-ray diffraction, and the bummer was that this wasn't gold. Right? But the good news was that we accomplished what we wanted to. We found that we could create an entirely new material because we're able to use a electromagnetic field to change the properties of something that was not alive. And it gave us an idea for how this technique was working on the animals that we were working with. But the point is, we're using energy to change the properties of the cells. Now, let's go one step beyond this, because even if we use an electromagnetic field to make the stem cells move faster, the stem cells are still aging. And so let's go to the highest form of electromagnetic energy. Let's go to light. What code of light do the cells use to direct the stem cells? It turns out it's copper peptide. So what happens is that the light comes from the DNA. The DNA emits a pulse of light, and it says, okay, make copper peptide, and the copper peptide goes out and starts a series of reactions that get the stem cells doing what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, as we age, the ability of our cells to make copper peptide and other peptides and hormones declines. We have some men in here that I think are over the age of 30 or 40. Like me. And one of the things you may have noticed is that as you age, your testosterone levels begin to decline, right? That's one of the negative consequences of aging, along with other things. Women, of course, you have your own thing, all right? Which I don't understand. All right. So,
I ain't going there.
All right, so I'm trying to stay out of trouble.
Too late.
You're knee deep in.
I know, that's why I'm trying to get out of it. So in any case, our gene expression, our library of who we are, changes over time. But the good news is that it used to be thought that when we age, that's it. The genes change and there's nothing we can do about it. But the good news is that it's been discovered. That's not the end of the story. And today there's billions of dollars in research that's being dedicated to turning these genetic switches back on, or turning them off if they've been on, and restoring our genetics to a young, healthy state. Now, as it turns out, copper peptide is one of these switches, and it's powerful. 3,000, 4,000 genes can be reset to a younger, healthier state. And so, what Dr. Picard, I wish his name was Picard, like in Star Trek, because then it would relate to me a bit more.
Exactly.
I almost want to say that sometimes. But Dr. Picard, what he found is that this is exactly why stem cells are behaving like younger, healthier cells. It's because the copper peptide is telling the cells, hey, we're going to reset your genes to a younger, healthier state, about 30, 35%. And now these cells start to behave like younger, healthier cells. They move better, they release more growth factors, and they can start to do their job. And this is why we get people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or like my dad who's 90, who shouldn't have any type of healing from his own stem cells, but yet with X39 people do. I'll give you an example. I have a friend over in Palm Beach who was on our cruise, Thomas Burke. And Thomas is a great guy. I've known him for 15 years. He's a humanitarian. And the projects we have worked on are with the Red Cross to provide relief effort. Like when we had the hurricane go through Haiti, Thomas was leading the charge to get doctors and nurses involved to make financial donations and donations of our patches and send doctors and nurses over there to help with the relief effort. And Thomas was in a car accident about 2 years ago, and it left him with a herniated disc in the back of his neck and a herniated disc towards the lower end of his back, and problems with both of his knees. He's 76 years old. Terrible pain. He went to his doctor. Doctor said, you've got to have surgery. He didn't want to do it. X39 comes out last summer on a trial basis. 3 weeks later, both herniated discs are gone. The knees are completely better. And it was like it never happened. And to thank me, he went out sailing one weekend, and he sent me a picture where he had 2 young blonde women on each arm. And I said, you know, Thomas, I don't know if I like the new you or not. But we get these testimonials all the time, and X39 has shown to be a product which is life-changing for people, because we can get the stem cells now in the body without using drugs, without injections, without any chemicals, without supplements, using the system our body is already using, light, to communicate with the body and say, hey, I'm 60 years old, the stem cells aren't working as well, let's increase copper peptide and get those stem cells acting like younger, healthier cells, so I can repair like I'm younger and healthier. And we have over 80 clinical studies that we've done since I started the company in 2002. And we've used standard blood tests, urine tests, saliva, different types of bioelectrical tests, medical infrared imaging, electrointerstitial scanning, electroacuoscope, EMOS testing. We've used many different types of clinically relevant testing to validate that these patches are working exactly the way that I've just explained. You apply a patch to the body, it stimulates the skin with very low levels of light, and that low level of light is enough to tell your body to elevate copper peptide, which is going to get the stem cells to start to behave like younger, healthier cells, so you can experience more energy, better sleep, support of wound healing, better recovery from exercise, better skin quality, and overall better quality of life. And before we go to some testimonials and question and answer, I'll be delighted to answer any questions you have. I think the final thought that I would just want to share with you, if anything, doesn't matter if you decide that you want to be involved with what we're doing or not, the main message and the takeaway is don't let anyone just tell you you are a physical being. You're a lot more than that. And we shouldn't let what's going on in the world around us deter us from making this world a better place. You know, it can be pretty depressing to watch the news and see the wars that are going on, the conflicts. God, we're about to head into another election. I don't think I can do this anymore. It's anything like the one from 3 years ago. We shouldn't get necessarily dragged into that, because if we see that we're so much more, because we are beings of energy and beings of light, it means just being in proximity to one another connects us. We have magnetic and electrical fields which extend a couple of feet from us, maybe even more. And that means we're all kind of unified here. We're connected together. And it doesn't matter what our race is, or religion, or beliefs. All of those things don't matter. We're all connected to one another, and we should behave like that and have a world that's filled with peace and love and joy, where we help one another instead of being in conflict. I'm going to turn it back over to Onyx, and then I'll let her do her.
Wow, right?
Thank you.
So, I think the last thing that David didn't say, which I've heard him say before when he talked about what we could be as a human race. One of the things I've heard David say before, which he didn't say tonight, when he talked about at the very end what we could be as a human race, is that, and forgive me for using your words, but he said that he believed that the X39 patches are part of what helps us elevate the consciousness of this world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I, for one, am honored to actually be here and be part of this with each and every one of you. I think there's no mistake that, you know, what we're talking about in this group is going out and patching 3 people a day. And there's no mistake in taking off those little stickers on the back of the patch and actually putting it on the back of somebody's neck. And you're actually reaching out and physically touching another human being. And in this age where we're all absorbed in these cell phones, I think it's no mistake that we're actually spending time actually interacting in a physical level with each other. So I'm happy to be here, personally. But I wanted to open the floor up for a few minutes because I know there's so many people here, and I know there's so many wonderful testimonials here. So if we could just have a few testimonials, if anybody would like to share one, and then we'll turn the floor back over to David. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. Somebody want to share one of their experiences since using the X39?
I'm gonna stand up.
Terrific, she's standing up, hooray!
I've been using it for I think maybe 3 weeks, and I can tell you that I hurt my rotator cuff skiing when I was in my 40s. I'm a lot older than that now. And I knew at some point I was going to have surgery because it got to the point where my arm out, it was like, it hurt so much. I could not lift my arm up high. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this, but I can sleep on my shoulder. Because that's the thing I could never do for like 4 years now.
How did you discover that?
I discovered that because I just was
surprised one day.
Right? It wasn't even something I was planning to. I just was trying it. I thought, I'm like that. I really,
Awesome.
I don't believe, right? I don't believe you have to prove it to me. And so when I met Forrest and Forrest told me, I'm like, yeah. You know, I can listen to the doctor. I can listen to a lot of people, but show me. And I will tell you that I cannot believe how much better I feel.
Thank
And I
you.
have given patches to my friends, and I've sold a couple, and I have a full-time job, so this is not my full-time. This is something I'm doing because I love my friends and my family, and I want them to feel better.
There you go. So just so you know, we're going to do a few testimonials, and I'm going to turn the floor back over to David and do some question and answers for those of you that wanted it. Sir.
I want to tell you that I get these scaly parts, scaly skin here, 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 and here. And instead of putting the patches on the back of my neck, I'll put it right on those scaly parts, and they go away. It's amazing. They really do. I mean, I don't know whether this is going to be approved.
Do you use more than one at a time?
No, just one at a time.
One at a time.
One at a time. And it went away from here, pretty much. And it's going to go away from here. I've got it right here now. And, I mean, and a friend of mine, he might tell you himself that he's done it. He put it on his heel, and it took care of a hole in his heel.
Wow. This is amazing. So when you wear the X39, if you see the scientific studies, you will find that David picked the spot at the bottom of your neck. When you push your neck forward, there's a little bone that comes out, or just below your belly button.
Probably the best.
Those two are great spots, but what I tell everybody is any spot will do. So you all can put it any place you want, at the top of your head, the bottom of your heel, on your tennis elbow, wherever you want it. The neat thing about this product is your stem cells know what your body needs. I don't know. And they will move systemically through your body looking for the weakest link. So you can pick the spot. These are the two spots that are recommended by corporate, but any spot will do. Somebody else want to share a testimony in the back of the room? No problem. I'll come back over. Excuse me.
I'm Harvey Perlman from St. Petersburg, and I've had a torn meniscus in my right knee for over 10 years. On a scale of 1 to 10, the pain has been 10 and 12. So bad I had to use a cane. And I used the patch for 5 days, and well, right away I felt it. I felt activity. And then 5 days, I'm not having pain in my knee. So this is awesome. This is amazing. 5 days, and it's now been about a week, and it's getting better every day. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, just mind-blowing. And I put it below my navel, so it's not even close to my knee. And other things are happening. I sleep sometimes, take a little nap, 20-minute nap. I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming vividly in 20 minutes. What does that mean? REM really fast, right?
REM, man.
So I'm blown away.
Good evening, everybody.
Don't
My name
hurt
is
me.
Ron. So as far as my testimony, it's about my grandmother. I was introduced to the patch back in September the 9th. I met with Deanna, and she gave me a couple patches. And my grandmother was having problems with circulation from her knee down. And we had just went to see the vein specialist, and they was talking about surgery. Well, we just came from the doctor last week, and they said we'll see you in 6 months for a follow-up. No surgery.
Wow.
The patch has been great. And the best part about it, here's the best part about it. My grandmother had been taking Tylenol like candy because of the pain. She's 85 years old. She hasn't taken a Tylenol since September the 9th.
Your grandmother's been using patches since September 9th.
Since September
So that's October so we're just at about 2 months.
Yes.
2 months on the patches.
Yes.
Okay.
No pain, no surgery.
No pain, no
Everything
surgery.
is fine.
So one of the things I'll remind everybody is everybody in this room is different. And so some of you will experience something immediate. Some of you will sleep better the first night. Some of you won't experience anything for a week. Some of you, it might take 2 weeks. Some of you, like Natalie's mom, it's going to take 23 days of nothing. And then bang! Natalie, look at this! My carpal tunnel is gone! So every single one of you is going to be different, which is perfectly normal. There's a huge room of people, so let's do something simple. Everybody who is sleeping better since wearing the patch, would you please stand up? Hands back. Awesome. Okay, sit back down. Everybody who has had a reduction in pain since utilizing the X39, would you please stand up? Nice. Okay, everybody sit back down. Everybody who's had a higher energy level since using the patches, stand up. Awesome. Okay, great. Sit back down.
change in energy.
Everybody who's had clarity of mind since using the patches, would you please stand up? Awesome. Okay, would you please sit down? I see you. Okay. Anybody who's had an increase in joy since using the patches, would you please stand up? So, in the last 3 months, I've had the pleasure of leading some meetings here in Florida and in California and Rhode Island and a few other places. And I started asking this joy question because one of the things that I started to realize is I'm asking this question over and over again. The ladies are going, "Me, I'm happy now!" And I'm like, "Wow, this is incredible." And I jokingly say to everybody, can you imagine a world where all the women are actually happy?
We'll be broke.
Is that a sci-fi movie?
It's absolutely incredible, right? The men are like, yes, please, the girls are going to be happy.
Just straight fiction.
That's all, exactly. So is there anybody else that feels a need to do a testimony before I turn the floor back over to David? Yes, sir.
I'm not supposed to say the cancer word, so this is just, maybe a rare personal thing that happened. But my wife a month ago came down with stage 3 HER2 cancer, and the mold. She's had cystic fibrosis all over for about 35 years. So she gets the mammograms every year just in case. It didn't show up on the mammogram. And so they're like, how did it get so big in just like 4 months since she's had a mammogram? How did this happen? Maybe they made a mistake at the mammogram or something, but maybe they didn't. But so I had just got introduced to the company at the same time, October 10th. So Forrest got me there. So I patched it right away. So I put it right on there. They said they had to do chemotherapy for at least 4 months because it's over 4.0. I think it's centimeters. It'll spread to the lymph nodes and spread everywhere if they want to shrink it first. Thankfully, they wanted me to test the cyst down here, test her brain, test the lymph, test all kinds of stuff first, so she hasn't started the chemotherapy yet. Within 2 days, she was to get another test, the PET scan or something like that, and it went down to 3.1 from 4.5.
Wow.
2 days. I don't know. So now we got rid of that doctor. The doctor said it's too bad we're still gonna do the chemotherapy. She said okay, she'll do the chemotherapy, but she just don't like how rude that doctor was. We're paying our money. Doctors don't be rude, okay? We're paying our money. So we went to a better doctor. We called the hospital and liaison committee for our religion that's worldwide that trains doctors in blood surgery, and they told us the top doctor we can get for our insurance in the whole, county. And we went to him, and he's the nicest doctor, and he says, if it's just a few weeks or a few months, we might have to do the chemotherapy, but it might have to be the 4 months because it's shrinking. So she's happy with that. But me, I still have the pain. I'm not gonna lie, but I pinched nerves, 20 years of, 15 years of being a garbage man, degenerative disc disease, inflammation throughout the whole thing. Hurts just for clothes to be on me. But clarity, sleep better. And the greatest thing, I don't have to take meclizine or anything for the throbbing and dizziness. And so even though I have the pain, it's lessened where it's
We're
variable
moving in
now.
that direction. We're moving in that direction. So I want to remind everyone that these patches don't cure anything. The only thing in those beautiful patches is organic crystals. It's your bodies that are used. Okay.
By the way, I should tell you, my daughter said to me, Dad, my daughter joined me on our 15-year anniversary cruise. She said, Dad, Onyx is one of those people that when you look at her, she's someone important. She does not give compliments easily. All right, so let's go to some questions.
I actually have 2 questions for you, if that's okay. Yeah, okay, so
Alright.
my first question is, when you talk about, read what I wrote, but basically, when you talk about the stem cells returning to a younger age, what if you have a body that is predisposed to some type of a disease or something, like someone who has Parkinson's or someone who has CF or even cancers in their body? Do they, if you're already compromised and you're returning to a younger self, but you're still compromised, can you talk about that?
Sure. I will talk about this from the perspective that we are not claiming we're treating or curing any type of disease or illness. All of our products are general wellness products. And so the claims we make is that they improve energy, they support sleep, they relieve pain, no disease claims. So the process of disease and aging is not a normal process. In other words, aging should be thought of as being a disease. There is nothing normal or natural about aging. The only thing you could say about it is that it happens, right? It's normal for people to age, but that doesn't mean the process is normal. It's certainly not healthy. And if we looked at an old cell, you would really say that is a diseased cell, because the energy production is abnormal, the metabolism is abnormal, the detoxification systems don't function properly, the communication systems are not functioning properly. So there is nothing normal about the aging process. So if we are restoring a cell to a younger, healthier state, what that really means is that we're restoring the energy metabolism to a normal, healthy state. We're restoring the communication system to a normal, healthy state. Now, the conditions that you picked are rather interesting. Parkinson's disease, we've spent about 10 years researching that. And with our electromagnetic therapy device, we've taken people in late-stage Parkinson's, and in 8 weeks, they're asymptomatic. We've been able to regenerate the nerves in the peripheral nervous system and along the CNS. That's a separate story.
Yeah.
But we found a way that we could regenerate damaged nerves and even create new nerves. It's called neurite outgrowth and neurogenesis. But Parkinson's disease is, the condition you would associate with it is depleted levels of glutathione. Glutathione is the body's master antioxidant. It's neuroprotective, and when the body goes under stress, it could be stress for a lot of different reasons, the glutathione levels go low, and now the nerves can be damaged, and people can have pre-existing conditions or genetics which predisposes them to Parkinson's disease. So when we restore the metabolism of the cell to a younger, healthier state, that means the antioxidant system has an opportunity to normalize. And in fact, one of the things we see with X39 is about a 30 to 35% increase in intracellular glutathione levels. So cancer is not a normal process. A cancer cell has abnormal metabolism. And in fact, the immune system is not doing its job to control the cancer cells. We can all develop cancer at any time, but if our immune system is functioning properly, the immune system will destroy the cancer cell and it will never show up. So for men, for example, as we age, it would be normal for us to develop cancer cells in our prostate. And we're probably going to die of something else before we ever die of prostate cancer. Doesn't mean we should live with those cancer cells, right? But it's all a matter of getting the immune system, energy metabolism of the cell to function in a younger, healthier state. So from my perspective, if you are restoring the health of the cell, you're putting it into a condition of health, not a condition of disease.
I have one other thing, if you don't mind.
Okay, and then we'll restrict everybody to one question so we can get to as many people as possible. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask, why is it that some people feel something immediately and other people claim they just don't feel anything at all, and then they don't wanna use it, they're not buying into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you know, we do, what Onyx said is very, very true. We have people that, like, day 21, day 22, nothing happens, and then day 23, it's like a switch turns on, and now all of a sudden, they feel 80% better, right, or whatever. A lot of reasons for that. So, number one, diet is going to be a big, big factor. We see this, let's say, in athletics. You could have people that train really hard, they get enough sleep, but they don't have proper nutrition, and so they don't physically improve. They don't grow muscle, they don't get stronger, have better stamina. Diet is going to be really critically important, because if you're not getting the proteins, the healthy fats, the minerals that you need for your body to heal, there's nothing for the body to draw from to heal. So you have to have proper nutrition. If you're not getting enough sleep, that is going to be an issue, right? If people are sleeping less than 6 hours a night, you're not giving your body time to produce the hormones that it needs, not giving your body time to heal. Sleep is a big deal. Hydration is going to be important. If you're not drinking enough water, you can't clear the metabolic waste out of your system and other toxins. You can't drive energy metabolism without water. So people have different lifestyles, different levels of stress, and so some people are going to be a little bit more aligned with that, and so they're going to heal faster. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Hall from Hollywood. I know that in your clinical trials that it's suggested that you wear the patch for 12 hours on, 12 hours off.
Yeah.
Is there activity in the patch after 12 hours?
Yes. Depending on the patch, let's say it's up to about 20 hours or so. There is a property of phototherapy and light therapy by which if you overstimulate the cells, they will stop responding. It's a phenomenon called attenuation. But it really means that if you keep stimulating the body with something, eventually it'll stop responding. And so what we found is in our clinical studies is that 12 hours on, 12 hours off works very, very well. Another thing is that the patches trap heat. So if you leave the patch on for longer than 12 hours, you could get a heat rash if you overstimulate the skin. So practically speaking, 12 hours is good. Yes?
The copper peptide that you produce, is that produced inside you from the patch? Or is that a property of the patch itself, but it's actually stimulating your body to reproduce that?
So, what the patch will do is it's activated by your body heat, which is infrared light.
Right.
It will trap the body heat because of the design of the patch, and then reflect very low levels of light that tell your body to make more copper peptide. Okay. So as long as you have copper in your body and you have protein, then you're going to be making more copper peptide. Yeah. Yes.
I remember reading about if you take copper and zinc peptides with 500 milligrams of magnesium, that will help accelerate the patch.
Yeah, so the statistics would be that 60%, 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium, and magnesium is going to participate in over 300 different biochemical reactions in the body. At least those are the numbers that I always hear. And so I would recommend that everyone take a magnesium supplement. Something like magnesium taurate is really good. There's another form if you want to take a form of magnesium at night to help you relax. Magnesium threonate is really good. That's a relatively new form of magnesium. Magnesium citrate is commonly available, and that's good. I would recommend, just to cover the bases, taking a copper glycinate supplement. That would be 2.5 milligrams of copper glycinate. And if you wanted to take zinc along with that, 10 milligrams, 15 milligrams of zinc, you can do that as well. But copper is a little bit more difficult, I think, to get in food than maybe zinc or magnesium. But those at least help cover the bases. Yes?
Thank you. People who have sleep issues don't go into a REM. Has there been any studies, any brain scans before and after, people who really don't have the REM and they need help, and then maybe they're on the patch 3 months? Is there any proof of brain scans that can say, yes, now I'm getting it?
Actually, we're doing that now. We funded that study a few months ago, and it finishes in December. And I'm looking forward to presenting the results of that pilot study in January at our conference in Las Vegas. So I hope we'll have all of that together. But we're doing this with a doctor in California who's affiliated with a university. I don't want to say much more than that right at the moment. But yes, it's exactly what we want to do. Is when we first were developing X39 and then we had it out in the field and people were giving us some feedback, the type of things that we were focused on were wound healing. And we really wanted to see if we could activate the stem cells, get them to do what we saw in our studies, and then help support the natural wound healing process. That was really the main goal. So the other benefits of improved sleep, of improved energy, pain management, those were all pluses. But the one thing that was very, very exciting that was coming back was the improvement in cognition, in mental clarity, memory, focus. And there was a way that we could explain it because we did metabolic studies with Dr. Melinda Connor. We saw that there were changes in the GABA levels of the brain. GABA controls BDNF, and BDNF will regulate the activity of stem cells in the brain. So you could draw the conclusion that X39 is facilitating neurogenesis in the brain and maybe having an effect on the neural net. And this could lead to the idea, okay, this is the path of how we're getting improved cognition. But we had a scientist that we've done other studies with that said, hey, I really want to, I've got some equipment, this is my specialty, would you fund a study so we could quantify this? And I said, absolutely, I'd really like to know what's going on. So we're hoping to present those results in January. I hope we get statistical significance.
Thank you.
It's a 10-person pilot study, and if we get statistical significance or the results, seem to go in that direction,
Yeah,
we'll present
that's a proof. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely. Oh, same here. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, obviously. I am interested in epilepsy.
Okay.
And it's a big issue today, and there's all levels of epilepsy. And I understand they have the SCN1A gene and the Cas9 gene, that they're very much interested in a very unusual type of epilepsy that is rare. And unfortunately, there are not enough people, we have a nephew that has it, and not enough around for the pharmaceutical companies to go do something about it. We're trying to get a big program to get that done. But do you have any relationship with this particular product that you're talking about now that could be maybe related in this some way?
Okay. So first thing about epilepsy is what there is good clinical information on are ketogenic diets and in controlling seizures. So that is definitely clinically established. So that would be the first place that I would start, is putting someone on a ketogenic diet if that was something this person's medical doctor was going to advise. But I would look into that. Now, so secondly, epilepsy is not something that I study. We don't make any medical claims about X39, and I am not aware of any studies that have been done on copper peptide in the use of treating epilepsy. I will say this though, is that the goal would be to normalize the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And while we haven't done that study with X39, we did the study with EON. And EON will elevate a peptide in the liver that activates the primitive immune system and will upregulate production of antioxidants like SOD. And this has the effect of normalizing the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So let's say, for example, someone was sympathetically driven, and that would be kind of normal today. People are, highly stressed. The Eon patch will tend to pull people into a state of relaxation, but not all the way into what would be a parasympathetic mode, which would be overly relaxed, which would depress immune function. So if I was going to do research on that, if I was going to construct a research study and I wanted to pursue a medical application, I would have someone using X39 during the day and Eon at night. But I can't recommend that because I don't know if that would be safe, and we've never done any studies, and I don't know if it would be efficacious. So it's not something I can recommend.
By the way, I'm reaching my 90th year the end of this month.
Congratulations.
What about using copper peptide supplementally? I think someone told me they were using it topically versus using the patches.
Yeah. Now, copper peptide has been available in skincare. As a matter of fact, Dr. Lauren Picard, I believe he was the first one to do it since he did the research. But yes, copper peptide as a nutrient or an ingredient in skincare products has been around for a few decades now. The issue that you always bump into with the peptide is the half-life and then also getting past the stomach acids. Right. So let's take glutathione as an example. Glutathione is also a tripeptide. You would have this with copper peptide. As soon as the peptide hits the stomach, one of the job of the stomach acids, it's going to break down proteins and break them up into amino acids. So taking a glutathione supplement is not really a good way of elevating glutathione. The same is true with copper peptide, is that there's really two issues. One is that you can take a copper peptide supplement, but it's not going to result in a significant improvement in levels of copper peptide. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the early copper peptide supplements were found to be toxic in the gut. Now, what is done in clinical studies, if you look at research in copper peptide, you'll find that they give injections, and that does work very well, but it's the same phenomenon as glutathione. You can go to a hospital, get a glutathione drip, but then 1 hour later, your glutathione levels are back down to normal. Now, glutathione drips are wonderful because they help leach mercury from the body and other heavy metals. So it saves people's lives, but you can't use it for anti-aging. The same is going to be true with copper peptide. You can get an injection of it. It can definitely facilitate wound healing. That does work, but it's not going to be especially great for anti-aging. And most of you are not going to want to give yourselves injections, 2 or 3 times per day. Right? Yes?
What if a person had multiple aches and pains from various injuries and also from stenosis or back problems?
Okay.
Would you use more than one patch, or where would you start?
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend use more than one patch because we don't have studies to say that's going to be any more effective. We don't know the answer to that today, but the fact of the matter is we have seen one patch do a lot. The things that I would focus on is make sure you're getting adequate amounts of protein. Make sure you're getting healthy fats like natural salmon, wild salmon, mackerel. Those could be very, very rich in omega-3s. Get monounsaturated fats like from olives, avocado. Make sure you're getting enough minerals in your diet, supplement where necessary, get plenty of water. I would focus more on those things. And then if you wanted to use another patch, I would use the Eon patch. And the reason is that this was discovered in La Jolla, California at Sanford Burnham by Dr. Evan Snyder. And brilliant guy, really nice guy too. I had the privilege of meeting him and discussing a research project with him. He made the discovery that it was the stem cells that were being attracted to inflammation, but it's the inflammation that's killing the stem cells. So what this tells us is that if we can get the inflammation under control, we might be able to improve the rate at which we heal. And our Eon patch is very powerful anti-inflammatory. So you would use the X39 patch during the day.
Where on the body?
Anywhere.
Okay.
Anywhere.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Behind the neck, below the belly button, anywhere. The Eon patch, same thing. You can apply it anywhere. If it makes you feel better and you want to put it on the achy shoulder or knee or back or whatever, you can do that. You're welcome. Yes.
So where are your results published, and are there any risks that have come up with this in certain conditions?
Yeah. So if you go to our website and you go to the science section of the website, you can see our clinical studies and you can see where they've been published. So for example, we had a study published in the Journal of Neurology, the IEEE, I can't quote all of them, but anyway, we list them there. In terms of side effects, I wouldn't say we have side effects or contraindications, but we do have things like 1 in 10,000 people are allergic to the adhesive. The adhesive is hypoallergenic. It's manufactured by 3M, and it's the same type of adhesive that's used in a Band-Aid. The other consequences that can come from wearing the patches is very rapid detoxification. So when you elevate energy production in the cell, and you very rapidly elevate production of antioxidants, you will move toxins through the cell more quickly. And so people could get headache, fatigue, nausea. Remove the patch, drink lots of water.
I just had an ablation and I have a pacemaker.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there's any risk that you're talking about electrical system.
Yes, but we're working with the electrical system of the body. So, because you have a pacemaker, I can't tell you to use the product. Your doctor would have to say that. But as a practical matter, we've had people since 2004 with pacemakers use the patches without any contraindications. But that's a decision for your doctor. Well, okay, here would be here's the practical side to this, is you're stimulating the skin with very low levels of light. You're using the existing communication system in the body to elevate energy production and stimulate production of peptides. That's happening now without the patch. We're just fine-tuning it, right? We're creating a coherent signal. So that means the risk is low. No, we have not, because we haven't done any studies on addiction because that would border on making a medical claim. So there are instances where we will work with doctors on, I'll give you an example. We have done some work with a medical doctor in Rome on the use of the patches to help women that are going through chemotherapy. They have breast cancer. So my mom died of breast cancer, and so this is something very close to me, and I'm interested in helping women that are going through this. And so we met an oncologist in Rome, and so what we do is look at, well, can we do things like prevent the chemotherapy or the radiation from having some of the toxic effects? Can we get people to recover more quickly after surgery or chemo? And we will do those kind of things, but we won't necessarily publish them anywhere because we don't want to be perceived as making a medical claim. Yes?
Yeah, I volunteer at a hospital for mental illness. And I have one myself with chemical imbalances. And so dear to me, a bunch of people I know, and family members. And also, as she said, addiction. I know you said you haven't done studies on it, but what is just the fact that if it's going to help with clarity, and it's going to help with detox. Yeah, I know the medical doctor will be the one to say no, you to say whether no, you can't have it or try it. But if it's going to help with detox and it's going to help with mental clarity, people with mental health issues like bipolar or schizophrenia or mental health issues that are detox from drugs, I can't see where it would hurt.
Well, okay, So we have to understand though, how is it working? What is it doing? And let's say we took somebody that is bipolar, right? So that's fairly serious, and we would want to do a study like that in a very controlled environment to make sure that what we're doing is not causing any harm, right? And so when you do a clinical study, the first thing you have to do is go past an ethics committee, and you have to go through what's called an IRB. So you have a panel of doctors, and they'll say, okay, this study is designed so that it will not do harm. So that would be the first thing. And because in our studies we're working with people that are healthy, we've never had an issue getting approved by an IRB. But if we were to start going down the road of looking at any serious medical conditions, this would be a question that would come up. Now, the patches are considered low risk because they're non-invasive. So that is a big plus. Secondly, we're not putting any chemicals in the body. We're only stimulating the body with low levels of light. So the FDA considers that very, very low risk. And there's also what are called predicate devices that are on the market that stimulate the body with light. So the odds are, if we did a study with that, it would probably be approved. But it has to go through this ethics review to make sure that there's no harm. And also you're taking precautions in the study design so that if someone does have an adverse effect, there is something in place of, okay, this is what you're going to do if an adverse event occurs. So this is why we can't recommend that someone who has a medical condition use the product, because we would only be speculating, and that would be irresponsible. So I agree, it's probably harmless. It may help, it may not, we don't know. But I can't in good conscience say, yeah, somebody with that condition use it. That would be completely irresponsible.
No adverse side effects on me.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any updates on the youth mimetics study that you were doing?
Oh boy.
What was the question?
So, I was being asked if we had any other evidence of youth restoration.
Well, just the update on the study.
There's no information that I would care to share at this time. What else would I say? Well, the answer is yes. We are. We're 5 months into a new study, and This is a study that's being done with a neurosurgeon. The study is being done taking blood samples. It's a pilot study with 15 people, and I don't want to say what specific the primary marker that we're looking at, because that wouldn't be the right thing to do at this time. But yes, I would say my goal is to develop products that reverse aging, and so we design studies to look at that. What's so interesting about this whole subject is that I believe 10 or 20 years from now, we're going to look back at this period of time, and this may be the last generation that knows what aging is. And the reason I say that is because it's really being understood today, not only how the body ages, and not only how certain species don't age, but how we can take human cells and duplicate that and reset them to a younger state. And the trick of this all lies around how the cells produce energy. So what's so fascinating about this is that older cells produce small amounts of energy, young healthy cells produce lots of energy, and if you take the older cell and you manipulate the Krebs cycle, and you get now the cell to produce energy at the same rate as a younger cell, remarkably, the gene expression in the cell changes, and you reset the cell to a younger state. And we're doing experiments now. We received IRB approval, and we're doing a clinical study with